Bhagavad-gīta Jnanam Jalashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Nadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Parakamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunantam Vidamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Laita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Manchakalpa Tarvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaya Vacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today we will be reading from Introduction to Bhagavad-gītā. In His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder-ācārya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we will move to the section, the Result of Understanding Bhagavad-gītā. So we finish one bigger section, which is speaking about our current position and relationships we have and what is around us at the moment. And now we look what could be our future position. So this part is supposed to inspire us to see what could be our goal. There are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. This is also explained in Bhagavad-gītā. In the beginning, Arjuna decided that he should not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsman. His decision was based on the body, because he was thinking that the body was himself and that his bodily relations or expansions were his brothers, nephews, brothers-in-law, grandfathers, and so on. Therefore, he wanted to satisfy his bodily demands. Bhagavad-gītā was spoken by the Lord just to change this view, and at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the directions of the Lord when he says, Karishye vachanam tava, I shall act according to your word. In this world, men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. Men must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like ordinary animals. A human being should realize the aim of his life, and this direction is given in all Vedic literatures. And the essence is given in Bhagavad-gītā. Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill other living animals, and there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad-gītā, it is clearly explained that there are three kinds of activities according to the different modes of nature: the activities of goodness, of passion, and of ignorance. Similarly, there are three kinds of eatables also: eatables in goodness, passion, and ignorance. All of this is clearly described, and if we properly utilize the instructions of Bhagavad-gītā, then our whole life will become purified, and ultimately we will be able to reach the destination which is beyond this material sky. what is important here in the first paragraph, Arjuna was he was in the bodily conception, so he was everything which was related to his body, like his family, was influencing his decisions. So that's why Krishna had to explain or has to present the whole Bhagavad-gītā, so Arjuna would change this view and get out of this bodily conception of life and fight according to the Krishna's direction. And here Prabhupada says also that there is difference between human beings and animals because human beings have a higher responsibility than animals. Even animals can kill other living animals. And there is no sin because they have no free choice. They are just, their bodies are like machines acting according to the modes of nature. But the human beings have this choice what to do and what not to do. So therefore, and there is also the sin if we don't do what we are supposed to do. And so Bhagavad-gītā deals with these things. Bhagavad-gītā deals also with the modes of nature, which are goodness, passion, and ignorance. Also, there are describitables, will be an interesting section. And so, because we are in the human form of life, so that's why we should utilize this human life properly, not like animals. Otherwise, there is no need of us having the human bodies. The destination is called the sanātana sky, the eternal spiritual sky. Yangatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. That is the law of the material world. Whether we use as an example this body or a piece of fruit or anything, but beyond this temporary world, there is another world of which we have information. That world consists of another nature, which is sanatana, eternal. The jiva is also described as sanatana, eternal, and the Lord is also described as sanatana in the 11th chapter. We have an intimate relationship with the Lord, and because we are all qualitatively one, the sanātana-dharma or sky, the sanatana supreme personality, and the sanatana living entities, the whole purpose of Bhagavad-gītā is to revive our sanatana occupation. Or sanātana-dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. That is called our pure life. So now we come to see, which is basically what is this part about of the introduction. This is describing this goal of our life, which is sanatana sky or spiritual sky, which is eternal, same as Lord is eternal, and also jivas or living entities are eternal. So naturally we belong to this eternal sky, and together we should be engaged in also in eternal activities, which is called sanātana-dharma. So that is our purpose, and then we can say that our life is pure. The Supreme Lord and his transcendental abode are both sanatana, as are living entities, and the combined association of the Supreme Lord and the living entities in the sanatana abode is the perfection of human life. The Lord is very kind to the living entities because they are his sons. Lord Krishna declares in Bhagavad-gītā, Sarvayonishu aham bija pradakpita. I am the father of all. Of course, there are all types of living entities according to their various karmas, but here the Lord claims that he is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen, conditioned souls, to call them back to the sanatana eternal sky, so that the sanatana living entities may regain their eternal sanatana positions in eternal association with the Lord. The Lord comes himself in different incarnations, or he sends his confidential servants as sons or his associates or acharyas to reclaim the conditioned souls. Therefore, sanātana-dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord. Sanātana-dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripad Ramanujacharya has explained the word sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of sanātana-dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. So this means basically that our relationship with the Supreme Lord is also eternal, same way like we are eternal and Supreme Lord is eternal. So this relationship also doesn't have beginning and end. The English word religion is a little different from sanātana-dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. One may have faith in a particular process, and he may change his faith and adopt another. But sanātana-dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanātana-dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. When we speak of sanātana-dharma, therefore, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that sanātana-dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the line of modern science, it is possible for us to see that sanātana-dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. So, Prabhupada speaks about religion, that it conveys, at least present meaning of the word religion, conveys some faith, which is kind of set of rituals. But in fact, original meaning of word religion comes from Latin, and it is religare. And religare means like reconnection. So even in this word, originally it was this meaning that there is something eternal, that we are, same like yoga. Yoga is also, it means connection. So religare and yoga are very, very similar words. And so the origin of word religion is to reconnect with God, same like yoga. But now word religion is not meant like this. At least usually how is it taken is kind of just set of some rituals, and that's why this sectarian understanding comes. Non-Sanatana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, but there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana-dharma, because it remains eternally with the living entities. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastras state that the living entity has neither birth nor death. In the Gita, it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible, and he continues to live after the destruction of his temporary material body. In reference to the concept of Sanatana-dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there is no meaning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Svarupa of every living being, the Lord replied that the Svarupa, or constitutional position of the living being, is the rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B master, B serves C master, and C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend, the mother serves the son, the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in the spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for service. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to society. The shopkeeper serves the customer and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family and the family serves the state in terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings, and therefore we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being. So, Srila Prabhupada speaks that there must be something which is a constant companion of the living entity, which is his dharma, because dharma means something which cannot be separated from the object, which is very essential to the object, like hidden light is essential to the fire. So same way with the living entity, the essential thing which cannot be separated from living entities is the propensity to serve. So that's the common part for everyone, and whatever we do, we still in some way serve someone. Yet man professes to belong to a particular type of faith with reference to particular time and circumstance, and thus claims to be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or an adherent of any other sect. Such designations are non-sanātana-dharma. A Hindu may change his faith to become a Muslim, or a Muslim may change his faith to become a Hindu, or a Christian may change his faith, and so on. But in all circumstances, the change of religious faith does not affect the eternal occupation of rendering service to others. The Hindu, Muslim, or Christian in all circumstances is a servant of someone. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one sanātana-dharma. The rendering of service is sanātana-dharma. Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and we living entities are his servitors. We are created for his enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. In the regard to the happiness, in fact, we are very often illusioned that we can be happy also without rendering a service, because there are different levels of happiness, and happiness can come from sense enjoyment also, but this happiness is very, very short term. Basically, as long as the senses are engaged in the let's say tasting the sense objects, So for that long, this happiness lasts, which can be, I don't know, seconds or minutes, or not very long. So we think that there is also other happiness than the rendering as a service. Even another level of happiness is happiness which comes from executing our duties. If we do our work and we come back in the evening and we feel some satisfaction that we did something from the day, so there is another level of happiness if we do our duties. But still, there is this happiness is also very temporary. It's longer than happiness coming from sense enjoyment, but still it is incomparable to the happiness which comes from the rendering of devotional service. And some people think that also, because there are, I'm deriving this from the 5 levels of consciousness. First one is anamoy, which is this sense enjoyment. Then there is pranamoy. Then there is some kind of mental speculation, like what we can improve and what adjustments we can do. So from this definitely doesn't come any happiness, it's just speculation. Then there is dharma, which is manomoy or jnanamoy. So there, this is this happiness from duties. Then there is, what is it called, vijnanamoy, which is happiness from philosophical speculation. Like we think that by attaining liberation, by understanding everything, we get some happiness, but this is also just another speculation. And then the highest form is anandamoy, or happiness from devotional service. So basically, out of 5 levels of consciousness, we have 3 levels of happiness, and the other 2 are just our mental imagination that we can be happy. But still, the highest is that one which is from rendering the devotional service, for the level of anandamoy. In the Bhagavad-gītā, worship of different demigods or rendering service to them is not approved. It is stated in the 7th chapter, 20th verse, Kāmaistaister hritagyāna prapadyante nyadevataha tam niyamam asthāya prakritya niyatāksvaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. It is plainly said that those who are directed by lust worship the demigods and not the Supreme Lord Krishna. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any sectarian name. Krishna means the highest pleasure, and it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is the reservoir of or storehouse of all pleasure. We are all hankering after pleasure. Anandamaya Bhyasa, Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. The living entities, like the Lord, are full of consciousness, and they are after happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entities associate with the Lord, cooperate with him, and take part in his association, then they also become happy. Okay. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show his pastimes in Vrindavana, which are full of happiness. When Lord Shri Krishna was in Vrindavana, his activities with his cowherd boyfriends, with his damsel friends, and the other inhabitants of Vrindavana, and with the cows were all full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavana knew nothing but Krishna. But Lord Krishna even discouraged his father Nanda Maharaj from worshipping the demigod Indra, because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any demigod. They need only worship the Supreme Lord, because their ultimate goal is to return to his abode. So, that's the thing with the demigods, that basically what they provide, Krishna can also provide. But the difficulty is, demigod can approve something even if it's not good for our spiritual progress. Or to speak of that worship of demigods, it's quite difficult to the comparison to the worship of Krishna, because it's much more strict. Any of these Vedic rituals are very strict in execution. There can't be any mistakes. But Krishna is Bhavagraha Janardana, which means that he takes whatever essence we give him. If we give him, let's say, 30%, he takes 30%. He doesn't need 100%. Of course, over time we will increase our dedication, our surrender, but Krishna is satisfied with whatever effort we make, and we can make progress in this way. So in this way, even the worship of Lord Shri Krishna is much easier than worship of demigods or performing some Vedic rituals. And also here we see that Lord is the source of happiness. So how else we can get happiness than from the source? It's very natural that if we want to be happy, we should associate with someone who has this perpetual happiness. The abode of Lord Shri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad-gītā, 15th chapter, 6th verse. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yangatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. The supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. This verse gives a description of the eternal sky. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky, and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, and so on. But in this verse, the Lord states that in the eternal sky, there is no need for the sun, nor for the moon, nor electricity or fire of any kind, because the spiritual sky is already illumined by the Brahma-jyotir, the rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. We are trying with difficulty to reach other planets, but it is not difficult to understand the abode of the Supreme Lord. This abode is referred to as Goloka. In the Brahma Samhita 537, it is beautifully described. Goloka eva nivasyatya kilatma bhuta. The Lord resides eternally in his abode Goloka, yet he can be approached from this world. And to this end, the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Sachit Ananda Vigraha. When he manifests this form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is as Shyama Sundar. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him because he comes as one of us and plays with us as a human being. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord one of us. It is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his pastimes, which are replicas of those pastimes found in his abode. It's interesting that Lord basically, in his original form, he doesn't present himself as a kind of Ishvara or some godlike personality. He presents himself as a cowherd boy, which can be also very confusing for the outsiders who are not in the process of devotional service. So in this way, they can be baffled in the understanding what is the original God-like. And in a way, it is also kind of protection, because they don't commit any, or is less tendency that they commit offenses. And at the same time, when the Dvapara Yuga was ending, when Lord was about to leave for his abode, he also manifested one pastime of his disappearance, which looked like that he is ordinary human being which was killed by some hunter or injured by some hunter, and then he died. But this pastime was just to bewilder the souls in a Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga had to start. There were souls who had this desire to live in Kali Yuga because they wanted to be the most sinful and like this. But it would be not possible if Krishna would be still present, or if it was so clear that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So in this way, these souls could just ignore him because they thought it is just ordinary human being, and in this way to have this quota for them to execute their sinful activities, because Lord even allows us to make sins if we are so stubborn. So okay, let's do your sin, but I put you into Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga everybody is doing sin, so we will suffer like anything. So he's making this arrangement for us, that he puts us into this condition, but we will not harass the other living entities who are not wanting to do so much sin. So they may be in Satya Yuga, but we are in Kali Yuga because we had such desires. But even then, as Lord Chaitanya, he comes, and even the lowest of the lovers is coming to deliver. Because one special thing about Kali Yuga is that suffering is on the highest level here because of all these sinful reactions. So it is much easier for living entities to approach God for any reason, because there is suffering, so we are not very much comfortable here. In Satya Yuga, the living entities are quite comfortable because it's very nice environments, and they are not so much eager to get out of it or get out of the material world. But in Kali Yuga, we are very much motivated by this suffering also to not be here for long. So that's the advantage of Kali Yuga. And then also, of course, the presence of Mahamantra. Even in Satya Yuga, they have Mahamantra available, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but they think it's just a very simple process. They need something, something difficult to execute, some proper meditation, which will take tens of thousands of years. So they feel that they achieve something, and in fact, they did right just chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But in Kali Yuga, people are taking because there is no way that we do some 10,000 years meditation, and it's the only possible process for us. So that's the difference between the Kali Yuga and other yugas. Okay. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahma Jyoti emanates from the supreme abode. Krishna Loka and the Anandamoy Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, Natad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatvana nivartante tad dhamma paramamama. One who can approach that spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same conditions of life, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. No planet in the material universe is free from these four principles of material existence. Okay. So, I think I will end here for today. And we will continue, because this is longer section, so we will continue tomorrow. Hare Krishna.